Are you ready to stop riding the emotional elevator of life? Are you ready to learn how to elevate your emotions that keep you psychologically traumatized or in an addictive behavior? You are in the right place. Here is your host, Sandee Byrd, trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach of the Emotional Elevator Show.
Well, welcome everyone. I am Sandee Byrd. This is the Emotional Elevator, and you are listening to me or watching me, sorry, on Inspired Choices Network, or after tonight, you'll be listening to me on many different platforms, but through Inspired Choices Network. Yes, it is an emotional elevator today in many people's lives. So this is a great show um, to have tonight, Emotional Elevator. But I am Sandee Byrd. I am the host here, and I am a personal development basically coach. What I do is I work with anyone who wants to unleash their authentic self, who wants to thrive through forgiveness, who wants to find their empowerment within. I think a lot of people right now feel like they need to find their empowerment within. Um, I want to go into detail about today, but if you're listening to this, you'll know that today, of course, is the day after the big loss for us here in the States. If you're listening to me and you are a supporter, please follow me on my social media because there's a post that means so much to me that I posted today. But you can follow me, of course, that's Sandee with two E's, Byrd, Byrd, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I do have my middle name in there, which is Steenstra. Um, who knows? Maybe Holland will accept me back since I'm a native Dutch woman. Anyway, that's beside the point. No, I still love the United States, even though I'm in a little disbelief right now. But today was kind of appropriate. This show I titled last week. I was supposed to have a guest tonight, but at the last minute, this guest decided to change and be on the 20th. Not going to talk about that yet. So I decided to come up with the topic. Let's break the silence. Which, when I came up with this topic last week, maybe it was the beginning of this week. I'm not sure, but I came up with this topic over the weekend when I did unplug with my family, my husband, spent time with each one of my kids, spent a lot of time with my husband and the dog, and just unplugging from everything. And during all that, there was some conversations about trauma and things I've gone through in my life that it's breaking that it's breaking the silence, getting away from the shame and guilt. But let me go ahead and read you the highlights for this show tonight. And those highlights might even change for this show tonight. Who knows? Because it is an emotional day. It's been an emotional day for many of my friends and many people I know. Um, so this could definitely take a turn on this show tonight. But it is all about healing and it's all about how I help individuals to heal and grow within themselves. So that's why tonight's topic, Let's Break the Silence, is a great topic to have. So I, of course, am your host and I will answer the difficult overdue question: when are we going to break the silence? Silence around trauma, sexual assault, domestic violence, rape, gang rape, incest, molestation, which holds victims captive and allows the cycle to continue, often within our own families. Many of us wait for someone else to speak up, to say the words we're afraid to voice. But what if the power to change the cycle begins with each of us, right in our own homes? Inspired by the Me Too movement, I will dive into the importance of using my voice, not just publicly, but intimately within my own family and community. Talking openly about my deep traumas isn't easy. The weight of the shame and guilt can feel insurmountable. But facing this silence doesn't just free myself, but it liberates my future generations. So let's break the silence and give our families the freedom to heal, to reclaim love, joy, and happiness, the emotions we are born with but lose through unspoken trauma. Join me in this episode as I confront the silence that held me hostage and discover the transformative power of speaking up and the voice it gave my family. It's time to empower ourselves, give a voice to the voiceless, and put an end to generational cycles of trauma. And right now, this is such a great topic to talk about. uh, Is that I have realized, and even having clients now, and we start talking about the things that we held close to us. And it all stems from that shame and guilt that we were raised with, that you don't talk about the trauma. But as we're starting to see, when the cycle continues within our families, it's because we're not talking about it. We're burying that trauma with that shame and guilt, and we're not speaking about it. And therefore, our families are still going through this. And I've talked about this many times on almost all my shows about generational curses and how powerful they really are. And this is another one. It's when we don't talk out loud in families and give voices to our children, to ourselves, and we walk around with that shame and guilt that it continues within our families, and it is spreading out into our communities when we don't feel we can talk about things because we're afraid to be judged. And that is a big thing. Even as a mom who now is hearing the traumas that my children are going through, I talk about a lot of it publicly, but then again, do I want them to? Sometimes no, because then I'm feeling shame and guilt as a mom. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't there for them. So that's what this is all about, is I have to get out of that. And I had to get out of that. And with parents, other parents that I coach, um, I have two very strong women that I'm working with right now that, as moms, we don't realize sometimes that by holding on to these things, passing it down, by not letting it go and talking about it and making it public, we're not realizing sometimes until it's already happened that our kids are going through these things, but because they're already feeling shame and guilt from silence. It's not that we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to bring shame on our family or guilt, but it's because they're already realizing that there's family secrets that haven't been voiced. So they're already sensing silence is the best. And I went through that, and I talk a lot more about my family than my clients' families, but I went through that with my own daughter staying silent about her rape. She didn't want to upset me. She was trying to protect me. She knew I'd gone through similar and I hadn't worked through my trauma. That was never on her to do. That was on me. But because she had silent shame and guilt, she didn't want to talk about it. But a lot of tonight's show is too about breaking the silence. Like today, I was around a lot of friends, family, because of course we had a major election and a lot of people are dealing with major emotions, and I'm one of them. Where the elevator's going up, I woke up this morning, I put out a live about promoting positive, powerful positivity, the techniques I use in my corporate industry, and now I want to incorporate into my clients. And I didn't know everything. And then I get in the car to go to my first morning class, which is Kundalini, and I got stuck in traffic. And all of a sudden, I'm just looking around and, oh my gosh, people are crying. And then I'm crying. And then I stop and see other people who I went to see. And then the conversation comes up. And it's, what do we do? We're all defeated. I feel so defeated. I feel so depleted. That's the point. When we decide to secretly hide within ourselves and not speak up, we are becoming defeated. When we don't join as a community and say, you know what, we're not going to stand for this, we are defeated. And we do this in our own lives when we don't speak up, when we don't break the silences, when we don't stand up for people. I was around a woman about 2 weeks ago who was talking about who she was going to vote for. And she said, it's all because I believe abortion is wrong. And I said, why? I have two stories about this. Well, because that's what my family believes, that's what my husband believes, so I believe that. Wait a minute. Do you really believe that? Or are you just jumping in? Well, I think as a woman, it is my right to choose, but I mean, I just don't want to rock any boats. That is terrifying to me. You don't want to rock any boats. So, what has happened to you that you were staying silent about? What could have possibly created you not to want to stand up for your own beliefs and values? Because that's what we need to do now. And another woman who is not really for or against, but she says, I just, I was forced to have a child when I didn't want one. So I think everyone should be forced to have a child. Really? I just hit my mic. So if I just stunned you, I'm sorry. Really? That's really how you think? Because you got forced? Now, who raised this child? Oh, my parents ended up raising the child. Well, some people aren't that fortunate. So, really, because you were forced, now you have a belief that other people should be forced to. So, that's the complexity. When sometimes something is done to us, our way to retaliate is not to break the silence and speak up and no, this is wrong. Let's fight for it. We just become silent and conform to it. This is not even fair to our next generations and even in our own families. Because wouldn't you like to stand up and have your kids be proud that you stood up and let go of the shame and guilt in your family? That's the one cycle, if anything that I can do for my children is to break that cycle, to break that feeling that you're helpless. And that's what I teach my clients through being emotional is it's okay to cry. It's okay to be emotional. And today people standing in their jobs and feeling that they can't let it out, that's wrong. That is so wrong. Emotions are good. Emotions get out what it is we're holding on to. Emotions evolve us as people. Emotions show we care about things that we should be caring about. Emotions are who we are. We were meant to have emotions. Think about this as a child. You touched the hot stove, or you went to touch the hot stove, and your parent went, and you're like, "Ah!" You're crying. Were we scolded for that? No, maybe we didn't understand why someone's screaming at us or why the stove was hot, but we felt an emotion. And then as we get older, those emotions are wrong. That's not true. Emotions are good because sometimes when we get into our emotions, we realize why we are emotional. What is behind that emotion? Can it be a trauma? Can it be a negative belief? Can it be feeling of defeat? And how am I going to help change this? What can I do with my voice? And that's why this is so important. And that's why I love the name of my show, Emotional Elevator, because I am an emotional person and I don't feel shame or guilt about it. I love going in rooms where, and today I had a couple people say, hey, you want to go somewhere and scream? I couldn't, but yeah, scream. How about laugh just to feel good today for a moment? I did some laughter myself. Did I really want to do that laughter? No, but I had to uplift myself because I sometimes if we get caught up in these defeated emotions, we continue the cycle of defeat. And that's what I want people to understand. Yes, sit in the emotion right now. Feel all these emotions of anger, of sadness, of frustration. But then tomorrow, wake up and do something. Keep hitting this mic. This mic is so close to me. Do something about it. Don't stay defeated. Use your voice. Break the silence. Teach your family. This is not okay. This is not who I choose to be anymore. So we're going to go on our first break. And I'm glad you're joining me tonight. Of course, I'm the host on Emotional Elevator, appropriate show for me, Emotional Elevator. And tonight I'm talking about all about breaking the silence. Let's break the silence. Let's break it together. And it's kind of taken a little bit of a turn because today was the day after the big election in 2024 here in the States. And a lot of people have strong emotions, but it's what are you going to do about these emotions? Let's break the silence and let's come together as communities and let's talk about these topics that we're afraid to talk about now. But let's go to that first break. And of course, follow me right now on social media, Sandee Byrd, Sandee Byrd RVA on Instagram, LinkedIn at Sandee Byrd. My website, sandeebyrd.com. Have a connection conversation with me if you want to work with me, if you want someone who's going to unleash your authentic self. Right now, I think the biggest thing to work on is finding your empowerment within or thriving through forgiveness, because that's what we have to do right now in this turmoil. But when we come back from break, I'm going to dive even more in breaking the silence.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. I am Sandee Byrd. I am the host here on Emotional Elevator. Of course, before the break, I was very emotional. And see, that's why I'm an emotional elevator, because I can go from that crying to that happy moment. And it's all about knowing that I am an emotional person and I am proud of knowing that I can express my emotions because honestly, I don't feel any guilt and shame for having strong emotions because that just means I have passion for other people and I have passion for breaking silence. And so, the first part of this show, of course, I talked about trauma in our lives because of fear. We don't speak up about our trauma because we are have the fear of being judged. When we don't speak up about what's going on in our lives, we feel defeated. When we don't stand up and push back, we pass it on to our children. Emotions do evolve us as people. And today has been a very emotional day where there's been highs and lows. Like I said, follow me on social media. You can reach out to me at Sandee with those two E's, BYRD coach at gmail.com. But I did a live this morning before I knew the outcome about my positive, well, it's promote powerful positivity with a penny, a pencil, and post-it notes. Reach out to me. I do it a lot in the corporate, but I'm going to start doing it with my individual clients, where you take a penny and you use it as a PQ rep, 10 seconds, breathe into it for 10 seconds while you do a sense. Like, you can look at the penny, you can feel the penny, and it doesn't have to be a penny. I'm just saying you can promote powerful positivity for under 2 pennies, especially if you have a penny in your pocket. I tell people all the time, keep a penny in your pocket, rub it when you're feeling frustrated. That would be great for today. Or keep something soft in your pocket if you are an emotional person, sometimes like me, to kind of break up the emotions. Or if it's a squishy ball, you can squish it in your pocket when you're feeling very frustrated. And that is a big thing. And a pencil, 60 seconds in your mouth, brings on a smile. And also, you can use that pencil. You can break it if you're that frustrated, or you can write a powerful note to somebody. And I talk a lot about post-it notes and just writing notes to ourselves about how wonderful we are, but also writing it to other people. But tonight's show was all about breaking the silence. And when we sit back and we allow this defeat to overcome us, we're just going to bond with defeat. When we come together as communities and talk about how this made us feel, why we feel defeated. Maybe it's something else in our life. Maybe this triggered something within us that we need to talk about. But it's also when we don't speak up for things that we value or that we see or that we feel or that was traumatizing to us, and we have children, we're teaching them not to speak up. We're teaching them not to take a stand. We're teaching them don't talk about it because there's a lot of shame and guilt. Now, I know my kids sometimes get embarrassed because their mom talks too much and talks up, because I did not talk up. I never really, until this show and before the show, did I talk a lot about what I've gone through, because I held on to it, because I didn't want them to feel shame for their mom. And also, the one thing I taught them through that was when they went through the same things, they already felt the shame and guilt in silence, because I didn't talk about it. And on top of it, because I did not talk about the trauma and speak up about it in my own family, when they went through it, they did not talk about it. They did not want to talk about it. They don't want me to know. And that comes from feeling a sense of shame and guilt. And we need to stop feeling shame and guilt. And we need to stop trying to not be emotional when we are born with emotions, all emotions. If today you are feeling like you want to be crying, cry, let it out. Don't bottle it up, because then all it does is you're keeping that feeling of defeat within you. And like I said in the first part of my show, when we were children and we didn't get our way, we cried. We let that emotion out, and then we were fine. It's the same thing right now. We need to cry. We need to have temper tantrums. Maybe not in public, but have that temper tantrum and then find the way to have your voice to speak up. Join communities that want to speak up and come together. Because there is a lot of people out there feeling so many different emotions on so many different sides of the coins, but it's okay. And we need to protect our friends and our loved ones that we feel are threatened in this moment in time. And like I said, follow me on social media. I'm going to talk a lot about how we can break these cycles. Having clients that have gone through a lot of the similar traumas and realizing that by not speaking up, they too are putting that silent shame and guilt onto their own children and not giving them their voices to speak up. Because a lot more Gen X, Gen Y, 20-year-olds, teenagers have more social anxiety than ever before. Why? Because they have generations on generations on generations of silent trauma. And they're scared to be out in the real world because they feel like they don't know how to handle it because we're not talking about it. We're not speaking up about how to handle situations. So they're curling up into balls and not knowing how to handle life because we're not speaking up. We're not teaching them anymore. We're telling them, look on YouTube how to live. And then they're being victimized and nobody's there to say, to have that conversation. What happened? What's going on? How are you feeling? How can I help? And right now, that's the biggest thing we need to be asking our friends, our family, our community. How can I help? Because you can be high on life right now because you voted and you're feeling good about where the nation might go in, but you don't know what the outcomes can be. We don't know. So we have to still support each other. And that's what is so important about breaking your silence. But sometimes it's got to start at home because I've always been a big advocate too. I've worked with Stop Child Abuse Now. I've worked with a lot of programs, but I still didn't speak about these things in my own home. I spoke up from them. I spoke up for others, but I didn't speak up for myself and for my own household. I wasn't thinking that if I said the reason I'm working with this group and volunteering for this group and volunteering for this group is because that happened to me. Instead, I just wanted them to figure it out. And then when it started happening to them, in a sense, because we've talked about my mom was an alcoholic and she became very vicious and had psychosis, and some of the things she said were very vicious. And as teenagers, young adults, they experienced a lot of that. And by not speaking up and saying that was wrong and saying the emotions I felt about it, they weren't learning what emotions they should feel about it. And I wasn't giving them the freedom to express those emotions. And that's where we are right now in the climate in this country today. We're not expressing emotions. And there's so many people out there that have false securities, false sense of beliefs, because they're still in the victim role, that they don't feel they have a voice to speak up, to say, you know what? I don't feel the same as my family. I don't feel the same as my husband. Yeah, I'm a Christian or I'm a Catholic or I'm this. But you know what? I'll take this part of my belief, but I need to leave this part of my belief aside. And that's another big role, is something I truly believe in, is that church and state should be separate, but we are allowing church and state to become one. And we need to break that. And we need to break our silence on that. And I get some people are strong believers in things, but then you need to also take action. You need to also help. Don't just preach, help. I can sit here and preach because I do help. I'm on a lot of committees because I want my voice to be heard. I want people to understand. Use your voice. Use the power you've been given through this thing called a voice to help others. But first, you got to help your family, in your own community, and then spread it out. Because I started out and now I'm moving in. And it's hard to go from being so far out to now honing it into my family because why didn't I start there first and move out? So it is already time for our second break. Of course, if you want to reach out to me about finding your empowerment within, it's definitely something right now people are feeling or thriving through forgiveness because a lot of people feel that they need to forgive people around them or to figure out, is this who I really am? Are these the values I really have? Or am I just going along with mainstream because I'm afraid to rock the boat? So reach out to me at sandeebyrd.com or Sandee Byrd Coach, those two E's, the BYRD coach at gmail.com, and we can get on a conversation, a connection conversation. Or follow me on social media at Sandee Steenstra Bird, RBA on Instagram, Sandee Steenstra Bird on Facebook, Emotional Elevator on Facebook, and on LinkedIn at Sandee Steenstra Bird. And just see how you can use your voice to speak up for those that don't feel like they can speak up. So let's get to that break.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back. As I've been talking about, let's break the silence, and we need to break the silence in our homes first. And that's what I want to highlight on is breaking the silence needs to start at home. Because in order for trauma, this show was talking all about trauma and how by speaking about it in our households first, it can give our generations or generations to come the voice to speak up and say the traumas that they've endured without feeling any shame or guilt. And how when we feel defeated in life, sometimes talking about it, allowing emotions to be emotions. We were born with them. Let's allow comfortability around expressing emotions. I am the host. I am Sandee Byrd of Emotional Elevator. And if you have been watching me for a year now, or you've been listening to me, you know I get very emotional. And I'm okay with my emotions because I have strong emotions. I'm also an empath, so I feel other people's emotions. So I know there's somebody out here watching this that is feeling some strong emotions. I'm feeling them with you. And that's what breaking silence is too, is understanding that it's okay to cry when we want to cry. It's okay to feel anger. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay. But it's also okay to talk about it, because that's what breaking silence is: talking about our emotions, talking about our frustrations. Because here's the thing: if you don't blah, 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 yep, if you don't speak up for yourself, your kids are never going to speak up for themselves. Think about that. If you never speak up for yourself, your children will never speak up for themselves. If you just go along with the flow with all the family on the false beliefs, all your generations are going to too. So you've got to speak up. You've got to take a stand. You've got to unleash your authentic self, which is one of my programs, but that's something I've been able to do, and I'm helping my clients right now to realize who am I authentically? And I'm so happy that one of them realized that that is one of their life purpose words: authenticity and authentic, with helping others to become their authentic self. Who we are underneath these clothes, who we are underneath the skin, who we are in our heart, who we are in our minds, and who we are meant to be in the world. And that's what I work with my clients on, is finding your voice, finding your lane to speak up in, finding how powerful your voice is to speak up. And on this day, I've I'm I unplugged this past weekend. I love unplugging. I really am not a promoter of me, who I am on social media, because to me that doesn't feel authentic. But today, I probably could have posted 20 things that were I was feeling today and other people were feeling today, but I didn't. But if you want to follow me on social media, go for it. Comment, like, or if you want to send me a message and say, that was a little out of line, because I am speaking up. And what comes to me to speak up about is what other people want to speak up about. And we're afraid to speak up. But I can tell you also, by me speaking up and giving myself a voice, my children are now speaking up and giving themselves a voice. They're saying no. They're saying this is unacceptable. And they're speaking up, which in turn is going to give it to their children. And they're speaking up with powerful positivity and realizing who they are, not what I expect of them, but who they are. And it's the same thing as I'm so happy to see people I know that have been raised in very religious households breaking free from the binds that they have on false beliefs that they have around topics. But speaking up, giving yourself that voice, giving your family a voice. Because, like I said, when sometimes we don't speak up, we're passing down shame and guilt in silence to our generations. And do you want to pass on that shame and guilt? Because there's a lot of people out there that hold on to a lot of shame and guilt. I haven't met one person that doesn't feel guilty at one point in their life, doesn't feel, I shouldn't have done that, feel that sense of shame. And when we feel those, we feel unworthy, we feel unvalued, or we feel undervalued. And as a parent or a spouse or as a friend, as a community person, me as a coach, me as a past manager, do I want anyone to ever feel undervalued? Do I ever want anyone to feel unappreciated? Feel like they don't have a voice to speak up for themselves? And here's the thing too, right now, with what we're going through in our country with the divide, why not let's understand each other? Why not have these connection conversations where we can hear everybody out? And maybe we can come together and unify instead of divide. Because right now we are very divided. There's a lot of people very divided and feel helpless and hopeless. But maybe if we came together and asked the questions, well, why do you believe that way? Why do you feel that way? Because, like I said in the first part of the show, I met a woman that she was forced to have a child. Her parents raised the child, but she's pro life because she feels falsely, well, since I had to, I want everybody to. That's unhealed trauma. And I offered my services and I was turned down. But that was unhealed trauma. Well, because it happened to me, I want every woman to suffer through it. How is that helpful? How really is that helpful in life? Or another person I know, well, I can't go against my religion. I can't go against my family. I can't go against my husband. What? Wait a minute. Are you living suppressed? That's suppressed. Speak up because you have children. You have children. And you're complaining that one of your children does not speak up. It's hard to say this. Where did they learn that? Follow along the grain. Stay with your husband. And you're complaining because you don't like her husband. Yet, you're the one who's kind of putting it out there by not speaking up for yourself and saying, you know what? I'm questioning this. And have that conversation. Why are you questioning that? And give yourself that moment to speak up for yourself and say, you know what? The reason I'm questioning this is because I feel it's unfair. I feel that's not right. Because the main topic right now with everyone is racism and abortion, not about the economy. And it's funny because we all think about money and all of that when it comes to politics. Oh, it's going to be the economy and, he's going to get rid of Social Security and all this kind of stuff. No, but the big topics that we need to care about and think about are the ones we really are divided talking about. And that is communities, our gay communities that we need to speak up for. You don't have to necessarily agree with their lifestyle or who they are. You don't have to agree with it, but you got to help them. They're human. They are human. And I can't believe how many people out here don't want to see them as human beings. And what trauma do you have within yourself that's keeping you from seeing that they're human and that everyone should love everyone? Because that's something you need to heal within yourself. So it is time for my last break. And this is a great topic. And like I said, I'm the host, Sandee Byrd of Emotional Elevator, and man, am I the perfect host for that name, Emotional Elevator. You have been joining me on Inspired Choices Network. Reach out to me if you want to connect, if you want to have a conversation about finding your voice, unleashing it within yourself, finding that powerful voice. You know, reach out to me at Sandee with those two E's, Byrd, BYRD, coach at gmail.com. Follow me on any social media. Sandee Steenstra Byrd, of course, Sandee with two E's, Steenstra with two E's, and that is ST and ST. Byrd, it's RVA at Instagram. It's Sandee Steenstra Byrd on Facebook. I also have Emotional Elevator on Facebook, not a big page. But it's also Sandee Steenstra Byrd on LinkedIn. And reach out to me. We can have a connection conversation if you want to dive deep into this. See how I can help you break your silence. So let's get to that break.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back. As I've been talking tonight, I've been talking about let's break the silence. And in the first part of the show, I was talking about how to break the silence. You need to break it at home first. You need to talk about those uncomfortable conversations at home about trauma and even addictions. I didn't bring that up. And breaking the silence, because sometimes when we hold it in, we're passing on shame and guilt through silence. And then I kind of talked about some stories about people that I know that feel that other people, because they don't have a voice, shouldn't have a voice either. And that really bestows my heart. But of course, I am Sandee Byrd. I'm the host on Emotional Elevator. And if you've watched me tonight or if you're listening to me on replay, you will know that I am a perfect host for Emotional Elevator because I am very strong in my emotions and I'm okay with that. And that's why I am a great coach to work with, because I want you to understand that your emotions are healthy and harmless. And when we were brought into this world, and I've talked about this too, we are brought in with all of our emotions intact. When we grow up, we are starting to be conditioned that our emotions are not okay. And that is wrong. Our emotions are okay. Today, feeling emotional because of what's going on in our country, that is okay. Have those emotions, but don't let them defeat you. Don't let them become you. Use those use those emotions to fuel yourself, to give yourself the voice to speak up about the topics you want to speak up. Silence is not power. Voices are power. Not our fist, but our voices. Speaking up for those that cannot speak up is power. Helping those that don't know where their voice is power. So it's time to start speaking up. And before the break, I kind of was speaking up about, if you do not necessarily believe and want to put down other people because of their religious beliefs, their, I was going to say authenticity. That is not the word I was looking for their sexuality. Why? Why does that affect you so much? What trauma do you have built within yourself that you feel you need to tell them how to live their life? Because maybe you're not living your life and you're not speaking up for yourself and they're being authentic in who they are, even if it's a sexual identity crisis they're going through or who they want to lay down with. As long as it's not my husband, I don't give a damn. As long as it's not my husband, I don't give a damn. And excuse the language. No, don't excuse the language. Because I want to learn. I am here, was put on this earth to learn and be educated. Why are we all different? Why aren't we the same? And that's the problem. If you want to dictate how people live their lives and what they do for themselves, there is something within you you need to work on. There is something within you that's trauma based around that you need to work on. And find your voice, speak up. But first, start in your home so that your family, your heritage can learn to speak up for themselves and have a voice and stop and break generational curses by breaking the silence, by speaking up, letting go of that shame and guilt and lack of worthiness. But follow me on social media. And if anything I say or do, you want to have a conversation, I love having conversations with people. If you think that you're just an emotional person like me and you want to start working with somebody, I'm the person because I'm never going to tell you your emotions are wrong. I'm going to tell you to feel every single one of them and ask yourself and acknowledge, why am I feeling them? But follow me on social media at Sandee Steenstra. Sandee, of course, with two E's, Steenstra with two E's, two S's, two T's, Steenstra Byrd, Byrd, RV on Instagram, Sandee Steenstra Byrd on Facebook, Sandee Steenstra Byrd on LinkedIn. Because I am an emotional elevator, and that's why I am the perfect host for this show. Because I dive into topics that are emotional, and I dive into topics that start talking about where we can break these cycles within our families and how you, being my client, will start breaking these cycles. As this weekend, I unplugged and spent a wonderful time with my family before all heck broke loose in our country. But I feel great. And I also want to teach other women how they can become unleashing their authentic self or thriving through their forgiveness or finding the empowerment within. Starting to do one-on-one retreats with people so we can work together. Where we come together, we go to a great location, but the first thing you do, check your cell phone at the door because we're going to dive in deep together. And if this speaks to you, then I'm your person. And if you want to learn how to speak up and break the silence within yourself, within your family, and learn who you are, then I'm the right person because we can cry together. We can laugh together. Trust me, I'll get you laughing. Everyone can tell you that. We can cry together. We can scream together. I like some dance parties. We can dance together. Let's find that joy within you by breaking the silence on your trauma and figuring out who you really are by breaking your silence and giving a voice to those around you, especially your family if you are a mom or a spouse, or if you're about to start your family. How about that? You're about to start your family. Finding that voice before you have children. So again, thank you for joining me tonight. I am Sandee Byrd. I am the host here on Emotional Elevator. Go figure. And join me next week. I do have a guest coming on.
Thank you for listening to the Emotional Elevator Show. Sandee returns Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, start elevating your emotions and stop riding the emotional elevator that is stopping you from living the life you deserve.